I think it went real well. I'm pretty versatile. Whatever role you put me in, I feel like I could succeed.
Caleb Christopher Love, born September 27, 2001. At one point, Caleb Love was that guy. He was the number 2 rated point guard of his high school class behind only future NBA All-Star Cade Cunningham. The fearless, streaky guard who sent Coach K home in the Final Four with a dagger 3. The shot maker who looked born for big moments. The high usage, high confidence engine that made you believe on the right night he could score with anyone in the country. After a breakout tournament run at North Carolina in 2022, the stage was set for Love to jump into the NBA draft spotlight, riding momentum, name value, and flashes of microwave scoring that teams crave. But he didn't leave. Instead, he returned to school. Love would transfer from UNC to Arizona, where he rebuilt some of his stock with a more efficient year under Tommy Lloyd. He even became the Pac-12 Player of the Year, averaging 18 points a game and leading Arizona to the top seed in the tournament. Yet, by the time the 2025 draft came around, his name wasn't called. Not in the first round, not in the second. Despite a productive college career and proven clutch ability, not to mention the support of NBA Hall of Famers, Caleb Love went undrafted. How did we get here? Sometimes in college basketball, staying too long flips from being seen as loyalty or development to being viewed as a red flag. For Love, each return seemed to give scouts more time to pick apart his weaknesses, his shot selection, his decision-making, his inconsistency. And with every new draft class that entered the spotlight, his name quietly slid further down the relevance ladder. What once looked like a lottery talent began to carry the stigma that something must be off. If he was good enough, why is he still in school? Caleb Love is far from a bust, but his draft night silence shows how quickly perception can turn in the NBA machine. When your game doesn't evolve fast enough and the hype that once carried your name fades behind newer, younger prospects, the league moves on. It's not always fair, and it's not always about talent. Sometimes it's about timing, and in Love's case, his seemed to run out just as his skills were starting to mature. But for someone who's been counted out before, this might be the perfect place to start. What happened? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Just get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Caleb Love is a 6'4" combo guard from St. Louis, Missouri, known for his confident scoring and flair for the dramatic. A 5-star recruit and McDonald's All-American out of Christian Brothers College High School, Love chose North Carolina over schools like Missouri and Louisville. At UNC, he showed flashes of star power early, averaging double digits as a freshman before breaking out during the 2002 NCAA tournament, helping lead the Tar Heels to the national championship game with a memorable 28-point performance against Duke in the Final Four. Rather than declare for the NBA draft after that run, Love returned for another season at UNC, then transferred to Arizona after a disappointing junior year. Under Tommy Lloyd, he rebuilt some of his efficiency and earned Pac-12 Player of the Year honors in 2024. Still, despite similar averages his next and final season, his draft stock had cooled, and on draft night, his name wasn't called. Stunt number 1, staying in college too long. One of the biggest factors that stunted Caleb Love's path to the NBA was his decision to stay in college too long. After his sophomore season and historic Final Four run, his name carried weight. He had just eliminated Duke with a cold-blooded dagger, scored 30-plus points in back-to-back tournament games, and had the kind of buzz that could push a player into the first-round conversations, even if his game still needs polish. But instead of riding that momentum into the draft, Love returned to school, and the clock started ticking in reverse. Each additional year gave scouts and analysts more opportunities to focus on his flaws. The longer he stayed, the more he was measured against new prospects, freshmen with untapped upside, international guards with unique tools, or upperclassmen with more efficient production. In that environment, Love's bold shot selection, streaky scoring, and sometimes questionable decision-making became harder to overlook. To his credit, he didn't coast. He transferred to Arizona and had arguably the most efficient season of his career. But in the NBA's eyes, he was no longer new. No longer mysterious, no longer rising. The league is often more enamored with what a player might become than who he already is. And the longer a college player sticks around, the more the league thinks they've already seen everything he can offer. Staying in school can be seen as a weakness, even when you're growing your game and maturity. But in Love's case, the decision to delay entering the draft likely shifted his narrative from a streaky, fearless guard with upside to a known quantity with questions that still hadn't been answered. That shift turned opportunity into skepticism and excitement into uncertainty. It's not that he got worse, he just stayed too long and the NBA moved on. Stunt number 2, the stigma that something was wrong with him. By the time Caleb Love reached his senior year, he wasn't just another experienced college guard. He became a player people quietly questioned, not because of any off-court issues or locker room problems, but because of how his career unfolded. It's a subtle stigma that forms around certain players when they enter college as highly touted recruits, but don't make the leap to the NBA in the expected 2 or 3 year window. Instead of being praised for sticking it out and maturing, they got labeled as risky, inconsistent, or even worse, damaged goods. For Love, the red flags became narrative more than reality. The transfer from North Carolina after a down year was seen as him running from failure rather than seeking a better fit. His return to school after a tournament breakout was interpreted as indecisiveness or self-awareness that he wasn't ready, rather than a bet on himself to rise higher. His high-usage style, once celebrated for its fearlessness, started being framed as selfish or erratic. Even after a strong year at Arizona where he led the team, won the Player of the Year of the conference, and played some of his most composed basketball, couldn't fully shake that perception. Once scouts form a belief about a player, it's hard to undo it without a clear, contrasting narrative. Love didn't get to create that narrative. He wasn't a late bloomer, he wasn't the underdog who rose. He was the guy who had his moment, didn't capitalize, and now supposedly had too much mileage. At least that's how he was perceived. That unspoken stigma built on assumptions rather than facts shadowed him throughout the pre-draft process. No matter what improvements he made, how well he interviewed, or how good he looked in workouts, there was always the sense that something wasn't right. Otherwise, why is he still here? That's the trap many college stars fall into. When growth takes too long, the league stops believing it will come at all. Stunt number 3, his name was lost in the shuffle. In today's draft ecosystem, staying relevant is just as important as being talented. Every year brings a new wave of prospects, freshmen with hype, international scouts, and mid-major risers with upside. For someone like Caleb Love, who's been on the radar since 2020, it became easy to overlook him. He wasn't a mystery any longer, and in the NBA, familiarity often works against you. Despite averaging 18 points and winning Pac-12 Player of the Year at Arizona, Love didn't dominate in a way that reignited first-round buzz. Scouts had seen his game for years and felt they had him figured out. But while his name faded behind newer prospects, the real consequence is how that affects his path going forward. Going undrafted means limited opportunities. Love likely won't get the guaranteed minutes or freedom that first-rounders enjoy. And for a player like him, who isn't a lights-out shooter or natural passer, he needs playing time to show what he does to set him apart. His clutch gene, toughness, and ability to lead under pressure. He's the kind of guard who thrives when given the keys, but now he'll likely have to prove himself in small bursts, often out of position or role. Because he's not a classic floor general, some teams won't see how he affects winning from the point guard spot without racking up assists. And because he's not a specialist like a knockdown shooter or elite defender, he may not cleanly fit into a bench role either. That's the risk. When the league overlooks you, it also limits the chances to prove them wrong. And if Love doesn't break through quickly in summer league or early season minutes, the window could close for good. Not because he lacks talent, but because the system never gave him space to show it. All in all, Caleb Love's journey to the NBA is a reminder that talent alone isn't always enough. He had the name, the moments, and the resume, but staying in school too long, falling behind new waves, and carrying a cloud of doubt that never quite cleared left him undrafted. Now his path forward depends on limited chances and quick impressions. If he doesn't deliver immediately, the league has a huge chance of moving on. But if there's one thing Love has shown, it's resilience. He's been overlooked before and always found a way to rise again. The road is harder now, but not closed. For a player with his edge, leadership, and fight, that might be all he needs. No matter how he got there, he's there, and players have been ultra successful after going undrafted. For Love, the future is still bright. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.